And so I heard of a group called the Sinais. And I thought, well, I was asked to join the Sinais. Well, it seems that at that time, in the early 1900s, there was a group of women called the Ezrat Nashim. And they were middle-class people, middle-aged women, and they were involved in all kinds of welfare work. Their headquarters were on Cecil Street, on the same street in which the old folks' home used to be. And excuse me, they were involved in helping. Immigrants were coming in. There were many immigrants coming in, and they were involved in helping with clothes, trying to get housing for them. They would help with furniture, whatever they had. They didn't have very much money, but they were a very, very dedicated group of women. And they had a lot of help from Mrs. Dork, the late Mrs. Bork, and she was active in all kinds of things, and she helped them along. And they used to go out canvassing. They used to collect 50 cents a quarter, $1. If they got $1, that was a big donation. $5, well, that was really something to gloat about. And with all the canvassing in the different parts of the city amongst the Jewish community, and that is not the affluent kind. They had nothing at all from those people. They couldn't get anything from them. Grudgingly, sometimes they would come down in their raincoats and give some clothing or something like that. But they would make you feel just like nothing. They thought the time had really come. Jewish people, these foreign people would come. They were sick. They'd have to go into the hospital, and they weren't made very comfortable in the hospitals in the city. And this group of women thought the time was ripe to have a hospital of our own. And with that as an incentive, and with Mrs. Bork helping them along and guiding them, they really started canvassing in earnest. And they went on for the longest time, and the original group of the Sinais consisted of 5 members. We were formed in 1927. The Ezrat Nashim were on the. They had been organized many years before that, in the 1920s, something like that. And they had been in the city, working in the city for many years. Well, with the hospital as an incentive, they really went to work. But they got no help. They went to the wealthier people in the community and said, look, we need a hospital. We need a place where Jewish people can go in when they're sick, where they can have a kosher meal. We need it desperately. They got absolutely no support from anybody, so they stayed within their own little group, collected their quarters and dimes and nickels and dollars and $5 bill. And after a great many years of foot slugging, and really foot slugging, because they didn't drive cars, they were able to raise, $20,000 as a down payment. There was an old home on Yorkville Avenue that had been bought by somebody who made it into a private hospital. And it had no operating facility. It was just a private hospital for patients to recuperate in. And they made that house was for sale, and they made a down payment on that house with their $20,000. E.F. Singer, along the line, joined the group. They did all the legal, he did all the legal work at absolutely no cost. In those days, it wasn't hard to get a license. They got a license to run the hospital. And they finally opened up the hospital. Now, I think that hospital was opened up in 1900 and incidentally, there was a group called the Twigs that worked alongside. We were different organizations, but they were a group of young girls, not married. And they worked for leukemia. So they worked for the Mount Sinai Hospital too.
Start over again.
In 1923, the dream of the Ezrat Nashim women was realized. They opened up the Yorkville Avenue Hospital. Now, it was a hospital that consisted of about 30 beds, maybe a few less. They had nothing really in there. There was no operating room. The linens, whatever they bought, the Sinais, some of the original members of the Sinais, mothers belonged to the Ezrat Nashim. They wanted young blood. They wanted young workers. So they had them come to meetings, and they talked about the necessity of a hospital, the importance of the hospital, how wonderful it will be, and the Sinais decided to work wholly for the Mount Sinai Hospital. That was our job as of then. And when the hospital opened up, they were short of linens, short of gowns. Those of us that could sew, and of course the Ezrat Nashim women also. My late mother-in-law, my stepmother-in-law, came there twice a week, spent 2 full days a week there, mending sheets, mending gowns. They had nothing. They were so poorly equipped, and we could not get help from the people that could help us. They just didn't think that a hospital was necessary. We had the Toronto General Hospital. We had the Western Hospital. Why do we have to worry about our own hospital? It didn't concern them at all. So we used to go there, and we did everything that we could to help in that hospital. They didn't have an elevator, and when a patient had to be operated, they put him on a stretcher and carried him, walked him up the stairs to the operating room. They didn't have a fridge to keep their antibiotics in. We, the Sinais, bought them their first electric refrigerator, and we were so proud when that first fridge came in there, you know. Kaylee was born in that hospital. Incidentally, that was the first hospital in Canada, and those are facts, that served kosher meals. That was the first hospital. Kaylee was born in the hospital, and I remember we were downstairs. It was only a 2-story building, very poorly equipped. It was an old house. And I remember Dr. Fines at the time was the head of the hospital. And I heard him phoning around. He was ordering rice and a few things that he needed for the hospital. And to me it seemed so demeaning that a man like him had to go and phone, but he had to do it because expenses were high, money was short, and aside from the Twigs, the Sinais, the Ezrat Nashim, and whatever we could collect, that went for the upkeep of the hospital. On Sundays, we used to go to the hospital and sit at the desk because space was limited, the rooms were small, and our Jewish people have a habit of pushing some of them, and they used to come, they want to visit a patient, maybe 4 or 5, 6 at a time, with their kids, and we didn't allow children in the hospital. So we the Sinais would sit at the desk and only allow 2 or 3 visitors to a patient. We couldn't explain to them that it was important for the patient. There were 2 or 3 or maybe more beds in a room, and with all those people, they have colds and things. They didn't understand, they wouldn't understand. And I remember one afternoon when I was trying to explain to a man that it was important for him not to take his children. We look after the children downstairs. He looked at me and very disdainfully said, "You society ladies go home. We can look after the hospital ourselves, you know." However, that didn't deter us. We worked, and we ran raffles, and we ran teas, and we made bazaars, and we managed to raise quite a bit of money. And then we started off with our Valentine dance. Now, yearly we ran a Valentine dance. You saw the heart-shaped Valentine, and through that dance, we were instrumental in raising a lot of money for the hospital. We really were a source of it, constantly bringing money in all the time.